Hey, we're Teacher Talk, and welcome to our channel.
We will be sharing some tips and tricks to help you make it through the school year.
In this video, we're going to talk about how morning tubs can make your morning a lot easier.
With these ideas, you can have your students engaged in hands-on activities first thing in the morning.
So, traditionally, a lot of teachers use morning work in their classrooms, which is it's not bad. It's not a bad idea to do. And it can look at just like different worksheets that you may practice. Maybe about like for kindergarten, maybe like practicing their shapes, cutting and gluing shapes. Or in the beginning of the year, it might be more of just coloring a picture. Later on in the year, it might be more of practicing letters, practicing numbers, that type of thing. Just things you're doing in your classroom. But the problem with morning work is that when they finish, as a teacher, you feel you have to check it to make sure it's correct, and so it doesn't get sent home and parents ask you questions about it. Number one, which takes a lot of time in the morning. Number two, if they finish, what do they do after they're done? So in the past, I've done, before I started morning tubs, I have had them write things, either practice numbers or letters, sight words, sentences, their name on the back of their morning work. If they filled that up, I also had in their desk at all times, so if they finish work anytime, they can pull out a sheet that has whatever you're working on for the time. At the beginning of the year, I have letters and sometimes numbers they can practice tracing or writing. I changed it out throughout the year so they had like addition or subtraction, maybe a hundreds chart to fill in, stuff like that. So just having that on hand to so they have something to do, so they're always engaged, is very helpful. But but that was morning work. That's more them sitting at their work doing stuff. They're not really engaged. So we kind of have switched over to doing some morning tubs, which are a little more engaging and fun for students.
Mm-hmm. Definitely more hands-on, and they still include academics, but the children are practicing those fine motor skills and getting more involved and thinking kind of it's like a game. So
I started doing morning centers at the beginning of last year. Depends on how you group your class, and it depends on what exactly you want your students to do. I have seen morning tubs be done in so many different ways. The way I do it is when students come into the classroom, on each table is a basket. I use this little shower caddy basket.
Check out our Dollar Tree video to see all the baskets from Dollar Tree that are useful in your classroom.
Yeah. But what I like about these is that it's got the different compartments. So if there's an activity that requires expo markers or like magnifying glasses or whatever, I can put them in the smaller portion of the basket, and they're not rolling around everywhere. And then you can put your actual activities in the larger sections. So when they come in, this is on their table. They unpack, they sit down. If they have breakfast, they eat their breakfast. They don't touch this. And then when they're done with breakfast or when they're done unpacking, they get started on the center that they have at their table.
So a problem that I ran into last year when I started to do morning tubs was some kids bring in their breakfast and they're sitting at their table and they get their crumbs everywhere. So what I did is we have our separate teacher guided tables that we use for centers. So I had all the kids eat their breakfast at those tables so that the children that were doing morning tubs at their seats at their table had the space and room, and we only had to clean off those two tables rather than every single desk that the kids were eating at.
It's really smart. Also, like if you have syrup or something sticky, it's not going to get all over
The manipulatives.
Materials,
the
manipulatives, yeah.
So other people, so that's how we do it, where there is one table or one center on each table. And then the next day, so for example, if this is the basket that was on my table 1, on the second day, it would go to table 2 and then to table 3. And so by the end of the week, every table would have done every activity. I keep them out for 2, 3, 4 weeks, depending on how they're doing with the activity. If they continue to need more practice with it, I'll keep it out a little bit longer. So that's the other really nice thing is when you plan once and you don't have to think about it again for a chunk of time.
Yeah.
Whereas with morning work, you have to have something
Every
printed
single day.
every day.
Yeah, and plan it and make sure that it's kind of consistent and goes with what you're teaching that week.
And that they're able to do it on
matches.
their own.
Right. And I did get to a point last year where one of my 5 centers was a worksheet. To have that accountability piece, but then they would turn it into our turn-in basket, and my co-teacher would grade it for me, and we would look over it with the student if they made any mistakes. But it wasn't all 24 or 25 kids at one time.
Yeah, you're just grading that. group of
The
5
group
or 4
for that
Exactly, which made it so much easier. But that was later in the year, after Christmas, when they could write and know their letters and all of that stuff. So, there's definitely a trade-off
Yeah.
there too.
And doing it that way, you're able to kind of really see what that child actually knows instead of, oh my gosh, like, I think they know this, checked it really fast. So we really could interact with them more.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah. I really like morning tubs just because of the leveling that we were talking about. It seems like it's more universal and it's something that all the kids can access and have fun with.
So we're filming in my room, so this is all of my stuff. But something that we do. Something that we do with our team is we share these resources with each other. So if I have printed something out, I am happy to give that off to anybody once I'm done using it. So I'm really happy to share any of the resources that I've already printed, because why make more work for yourself if your team is willing to share? So in the beginning of the year, I really try to focus on more fine motor activities. So we just recently started school. So the centers that I put out were more fine motor based. So one of my centers, I don't know if you can you see that? No? So it's a card that has pictures of, thank you, popsicle sticks on them, and they're different colors. And so
You can get those from Dollar Tree.
you can get the popsicles from Dollar Tree. But you can use this in many ways. So in the beginning, the kids typically take their popsicle sticks and line them up on top of the picture and do it on top of the picture. That is fine by me. That's great because that's a skill that they need to have. Color matching, position matching, one-to-one correspondence with that, I think,
Fine motor to make it in the right spot and be delicate with it.
is excellent. But then for those kids who have mastered that particular skill, I say, you're not allowed to put popsicles on top. So they have to set it further up on their desk and build the same picture below it. And that's visual discrimination. And that is a lot harder, especially for 5-year-olds.
Yeah.
So that's one of the fun centers I do. And then I have shoelaces and beads, and they're just stringing them on, making little bead necklaces. And the fine motor is really good for that.
And they're probably not even realizing some of them will be making patterns, which is a huge thing that we
Or
can-
counting them, counting the beads as they're stringing them on. So for beginning of the year, this fine motor stuff is really helpful. But as the year moves on, I go to my massive binder of activities. I have 2 of these that are chock full. So one is for language arts themed morning centers, and then my other one is for math themed centers. And my co-teacher has been really awesome with helping me organize them. I'm considering moving them out of the binder because it does take up a lot of space, but we'll get to that later. So I have sections like fine motor, missing letters, vowel sorts, matching letters to words. I mean, it's all the things. So inside the basket, I like to have the activities in different colored baggies. So this was an accidental discovery last year. One of the supplies on our list was Ziploc bags, and someone had brought in colored sandwich bags, and I'd never seen them before. I got so excited. I opened one box, I'm like, they're colored, and the light bulb went off. So I like to make a copy for each child at the table. So currently my tables are 4 children each. Sometimes as we get new students, there's more. So I have 5 copies of the same activity. That takes a lot of planning, laminating, printing, and cutting. But to me it's worth it because once I do it once, I don't have to do it ever again.
Once you did it last year, you can have that for years.
Yeah.
Absolutely, it's fabulous. So what I do is I put their activity in a colored bag. So this is a red bag. But if 4 children are playing with the same cards all over the table, how do they know which card is which? So another brilliant idea that my co-teacher had was to make colors on the back. So on the back, there's literally a scribble across the back in a red Sharpie. So the red card goes in the red bag. Like, how brilliant is that?
Whatever you do, just put some color code or number code on the back or letter code.
I've also seen people do stickers. So they'll put the sticker on the bag, and then every piece has the same sticker on the back, and they can match the stickers, which is also really fun for them. But they're in here, so all the children would pick a colored bag. It doesn't matter which. They do the activity. They put it back when it was over, and you're done.
So a lot of the Morning Tub resources that we found have like activities sorted by month or by season, and they have 20, 30, 40 centers for that month. And you can literally print all of them out if you want and have each of your students get to make that choice each day. And then you can have those even longer because that could last months or more.
Yeah, like you said, making those observations as a teacher, what they do choose, you can kind of get to learn a little bit more about them and how they work and how they learn.
So maybe in the beginning of the year, you started off with having one center per table, but as you learn about your class, you may decide, you know what, I'm gonna have 24 baskets with one activity each, and they get to make the choice. So it's all adaptable, which is really nice.
And we're gonna link what our favorite resource below that we got from Teachers Pay Teachers.
Yeah, it's a ginormous bundle, and it's wonderful.
It'll last you the whole year.
Yeah.
And then once, like we said, that one con would probably be that initial printing, laminating, cutting. But like Becky said, once you do that,
Yeah.
you're good for like the rest of your teaching career if that's what you want to do, morning
Yeah.
tubs.
So it might take you a year to get it all, like all your supplies there, but after that year, you're set.
Absolutely. And the last thing that I do to help organize myself is I write down what activities I've used when, and then I save it. So I have every single week from last year. I know what activities I did in August and December and in April. And so this year, I'm just going to go back and look at that and be like, it's the second week in September. I did this, that, and the other. Oh, I'll just use those again. And that literally takes the planning out of it. And it takes so much off your shoulders.
And
which is
also
really
when you
nice.
think about it, even with the 20 different centers, 24 different centers, that's only you printing that 24 separate individual things. Or if you're doing it by table, you're only printing 4 copies of each. So it's not 24 copies of everything every day.
Right.
Like morning work would be.
Right.
So it really is saving a lot.
It is. And then you can reuse these activities in your language arts centers and your math centers, which I do all the time because they're already hitting those skills that they need to be reviewing anyway.
Work smarter, not harder.
Exactly. So we've talked a lot about what the positive things are about learning centers, and we've highlighted on pretty much, in my opinion, the number one thing about them. I don't know how else to put that in words. It can seem daunting, but there are some other things that could kind of put a little hiccup in the whole operation, if you will.
A lot of these tubs, though they're hands-on, a lot of them practice fine motor skills, and you need certain tools for that. So sometimes you'll need the little like pincher tongs or magnifying glasses. But finding those resources, if you don't have that in your classroom, that can be tough.
And expensive if you can't find it.
I know the tongs are at Dollar Tree, but again, if you're buying them, depending how you're doing it in your room, you might need to buy 24. It could get a little pricey. So that can be a little bit of a challenge to work through. And
Right.
kind of deciding what you want to do, how you want to do it.
But just remember, you can always ask the people in your building. I personally have never encountered an item that we can't get our hands on.
Yeah.
Someone
Somewhere.
always has them.
Luckily, we have coaches that have a lot of resources and manipulatives and materials for us to use. So magnifying glasses, we borrow from our STEM and science coach, and that, takes that weight off of us. So if you have a coach, I would go to them first. They usually have their own budget and materials that maybe you don't even realize. I know that we recently visited our math coach's closet, and we didn't realize how
much she
many
has.
things that she had that we could be using in our classroom.
Right.
So reach out and ask, honestly, if you build those
Yep.
relationships, and just, they're there to help. That's why they're there.
Oh, you can send out an email to your school, be like, does anybody have these? I'm looking for this. Let me know and I can borrow them.
Right. Yeah.
These morning tubs are meant to be cost efficient.
Exactly.
Right.
And save you money and time.
Including copy clicks.
Especially if your school is counting copy clicks, because as paper gets more expensive and budgets are getting cut
And ink.
and ink,
It becomes harder and harder to get
right.
printing materials
Funds.
sometimes.
Yeah.
Be sure to check out our Dollar Tree must-haves video, and also check out your local Dollar Tree. They have a lot of the materials you may need for these tubs. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like and subscribe button.
Comment below with how you get your students engaged in the morning.
Remember that these are just ideas to get you started, and you can adapt and tweak them for your classroom.
You know, whatever sprinkles your donut.